Welcome to Lair, the Alchemist, where we discuss all things heavy metal and hard rock. On today's episode, the community poll results for my guitar player poll. I wanted to make a poll where we put up a bunch of different guitar players, and you tell me who your favorite was. I didn't want it to be a competition. Notice I said who your favorite is, not who the best is, because how do you determine who the best guitar player is, right? That means different things to different people. Music isn't a sport. It's really about how it moves and impacts you. So that's why I put all these, who is your favorite guitar player? Which one of these guitar players do you like best is how I phrased it. And I also grouped them roughly around the time frame that they were popular. You know, I didn't want to put Jeff Beck up against Dimebag Darrell and everything. So I wanted to try to group them with people that were roughly similar from the eras that they came out in. This is hard to do because, like I said, it's how do you judge, how do you pick who your favorite guitar player is? And really, for me, it just has to come down to who's the person that engages me the most, that I just like listening to the most. I mean, really, to break it down simply. But it's also tricky because I have to like the music. And if I don't like the music, it doesn't matter how good the guitar player is, I'm not going to listen to it, or I'm not really going to like that. It affects the guitar player for me if I don't like the music. So that's how I come to my decisions. You know, it's sort of this balancing act between the music that I like and how much that person's playing impacts me. All right, let's get into it. Some of these were really close. All right, so for the first one, we had which one of these do you like best? And it was 137 votes. We had Eric Clapton, Jimmy Page, Jeff Beck, Jimi Hendrix, and Leslie West. Jimmy Page took it with 53%, Hendrix with 30%, Jeff Beck next with 7%, Leslie West with 6%, and Clapton with 4%. Kind of surprised that Clapton came in the lowest. You know, honestly, I'm not an Eric Clapton fan. I like him in Cream. I don't like anything that he did after that. For me, this would have been Hendrix. Hendrix is one of my all-time favorite guitar players, his influence on guitar. And I love Hendrix's music. I can understand picking Jimmy Page, though, because I do really like Led Zeppelin, and I think Jimmy Page is a fantastic guitar player, and the stuff that he did with Led Zeppelin is great. I do also really like Leslie West. If I had to pick an order, for me, it would have been Hendrix, Jimmy Page, Leslie West, Jeff Beck, Eric Clapton. All right, next, which player do you like best? For this group, we had Ritchie Blackmore, Tony Iommi, Mick Box, Billy Gibbons, and Frank Zappa. Tony Iommi takes it with 55%, Blackmore at 34% in second place, Billy Gibbons 6%, Zappa with 3%, and Mick Box from Uriah Heep, unfortunately, 1%. So somebody voted for him. We had 143 votes on this one. This one's really hard because musically I like Black Sabbath better than anything that Ritchie Blackmore has done, although I love Deep Purple and Rainbow. But I am such a huge Ritchie Blackmore fan, and I love his guitar playing so much that strictly on a guitar playing vote, I would go with Ritchie Blackmore. I just love Ritchie's playing. He's so emotional, the way he puts the blues and classical together. He's so innovative, in my opinion. I love Tony Iommi for his riffing, but I think Blackmore is a better soloist than Iommi. Iommi is the king of the riff. Nobody writes as many great riffs or as many heavy riffs as Iommi. So this one was really hard, but for me it would be Blackmore, then Iommi, then Billy Gibbons. I do really love Billy Gibbons as a blues-based guitar player. Then probably Zappa. Zappa is just his unique rhythm playing and just the way he phrases things and everything, his rhythms and everything. And then Mick Box would be last for me also. All right, next, for which guitar player do you like best? This one had 142 votes. This was a tight one. We had Michael Schenker, Gary Moore, Buck Dharma, Ace Frehley, and Alex Lifeson. And Michael Schenker takes it with 28%. Alex Lifeson next with 24%. Gary Moore with 20%. Tied with Ace Frehley for 20%. And Buck Dharma with 7%. This one, for me, yeah, I would have gone Michael Schenker. Schenker's phrasing, Schenker's sense of melody is just otherworldly. Love Michael Schenker, especially love his time in UFO. I probably, oh man, this is tough because I would have, I, it's tough between Buck Dharma and Gary Moore. Gary Moore is the better guitar player, but I'm not as fond of Gary Moore's solo stuff. But from a strictly guitar playing perspective, who I'd want to listen to, I would go Gary Moore second, because when this Gary Moore stuff that I like, I think is incredible. I love it. Next for me would be Buck Dharma. Then, you know, Buck I think is an underrated guitar player. He can play so many different styles. Then I would probably go Ace Frehley. Honestly, this is tough. Ace Frehley or Alex Lifeson. I do love Ace, but I think Alex is a more interesting guitar player. I do think Ace is a great guitar player. Everybody in this particular group, I think, are great guitar players. And Ace does have his own kind of sound. You can pick Ace out when you hear a guitar solo, but Alex Lifeson kind of has more of a whole package in the way he's evolved over the years. So I'd probably give Alex Lifeson the nod before Ace. So for me, Schenker, Moore, Buck, Lifeson, Frehley. All right, next for which guitar player do you like best? We have Paul Kossoff, Brian May, Carlos Santana, Neil Schon, and David Gilmour. Gilmour takes it with 46%. Brian May with 28%. Neil Schon with 10% in third place. Carlos Santana with 8%. And Paul Kossoff with 7%. Wow, this is a tough one too. And I would probably go Brian May with this one. He has such a unique sound, the way he layers his guitars to make it sound like an orchestra at times, a wind group at times. His melodicism is fantastic. Think of that guitar solo in Bohemian Rhapsody. Next for me, though, would be David Gilmour. I mean, David Gilmour's sound and phrasing. He reminds me a little bit of like Eric Clapton. They play a Strat. They're very blues-based. But to me, Gilmour is way more interesting than Eric Clapton. I like David Gilmour way more than Eric Clapton. And some of David Gilmour's solos are, you know, the solo at the end of Comfortably Numb is one of the greatest of all times. Next for me would probably be Carlos Santana. I do really like his style. And then probably Neil Schon and then Paul Kossoff. All right, let's see here. This was a tough one. Which player do you like best? 310 votes on this one. Randy Rhoads, Vivian Campbell, Eddie Van Halen, Yngwie Malmsteen, and John Sykes. Eddie Van Halen takes it with 53%. Randy Rhoads with 27%. John Sykes with 9%. Vivian Campbell with 7%. Yngwie with 5%. Tough one because, you know, Randy, we really only have those 2 Ozzy albums to go by, but still, for me, I got to go Randy. I just love his playing, his combination of technique, melody, the classical elements. He was just really something special for me. But man, oh man, Eddie Van Halen is a close second there. I cannot fault anyone for picking Eddie Van Halen. He changed the way the guitar was played. For me, it would be Rhoads, Van Halen too. I would go next with Vivian Campbell. I'm a big Vivian Campbell fan. I think he's kind of underrated and gets overlooked. Love his playing in Dio and now with Last in Line. Then I would probably, this is tough, but I would probably go Yngwie Malmsteen with the caveat that it's really the Alcatraz album and the first like 3 or 4 Yngwie solo albums. I think he's amazing on those. I think after that he really just got too repetitive and lost what he had on the first couple albums. And then probably John Sykes. But again, all these players are amazing. John Sykes is an amazing guitar player too. So very, very tough one. All right, which one of these guitar duos is your favorite? 322 votes. Dave Murray and Adrian Smith from Iron Maiden, Scott Gorham and Brian Robertson from Thin Lizzy, Glenn Tipton and KK Downing, Judas Priest, Hank Sherman, and Michael Denier from Merciful Fate, and Murray and Smith from Maiden win it with 38%, first place. Tipton, Downing, second place with 31%. Gorham and Robertson, 22%. And Hank Sherman and Michael Denier, fourth place with 9%. This one for me, yeah, I would have probably gone with Dave Murray and Adrian Smith also. I think that they complement each other really well. Dave Murray's a little more off the cuff. Adrian Smith is a little bit more Michael Schenker, worked out. I did a video on this, them versus Downing and Tipton, comparing the two way long ago. Check that out if you want. But second place for me would have been Scott Gorham and Brian Robertson. I think that they're playing in Thin Lizzy. It's just fantastic the way they played off of each other. They're both two great, great players. Then it would be Tipton and Downing, a classic Judas Priest, and then Hank Sherman and Michael Denier for me. All right, two more here. Another duo, favorite guitar duo. These are more thrash guys. Kerry King, Jeff Hanneman from Slayer, Hetfield, Hammett from Metallica, Scott Ian, Dan Spitz from Anthrax, Dave Mustaine and Marty Friedman from Megadeth. And Mustaine and Friedman take it with 43%. Hetfield and Hammett, 31%, second place. King and Hanneman, third place with 21%, and Scott Ian and Dan Smith come in with 5%. I would have done the same thing. Mustaine, Friedman, Rust in Peace, and the stuff that they did together is just incredible. Marty Friedman is an amazing guitar player, and putting that, the way the two of them played, putting that together in a thrash thing, it was just really something special. Next for me would have been Kerry King and Jeff Hanneman. I know a lot of people bag on Kerry King that he just sort of throwing his hands all over and dive bomb stuff, but I think in Slayer it works, and I think the two of them were the two perfect guitar players for Slayer, so they would have been number two for me. Then probably Hetfield and Hammett, and then Scott Ian and Dan Spitz. All right, two more. Which guitar players you like best? George Lynch, Warren DeMartini, Jakey Lee, Zach Wilde, Vito Bratta. Jakey Lee takes it with 33%, George Lynch with 31%, Zach Wilde 23% in third, Warren DeMartini with 7%, and Vito Bratta with 6%. Jakey Lee would have taken it for me also. I love Jake. I think that his playing with Ozzy was fantastic, and Badlands is also incredible. I don't really care for the Red Dragon Cartel stuff, but that's really because of the music. Just doesn't do it for me. But I would have put George Lynch second for me. He's such a unique player with a unique tone. Then I would have gone with Warren DeMartini third. I think he's a very melodic player. Zach Wilde would have been fourth for me. I like Zach on the early Ozzy stuff when he's reined in by a producer, but I do not like Black Label Society. The way the pinch harmonics and everything just sort of ruins it for me. And then Vito Bratta would have been in last place for me. All right, last one. Which player do you like best? This one had Dimebag Darrell, Steve Vai, Paul Gilbert, Jason Becker, Joe Satriani. This was the one group where some people put for some of these comments none of the above. And I understand that because this is the one group where I don't really... This is the group with the players that I like the least out of all these groups. But Dimebag takes it with 32%, Steve Vai 28%, third place Joe Satriani with 23%, Paul Gilbert with 11%, and Jason Becker with 7%. This is a unique one because I don't really like the music much of any of these players. But for me, it actually would have been Jason Becker. He's the one guy that I do like his playing, and I do like his songs. I'm mostly thinking of him when he was with his Shrapnel Records and his solo albums and Cacophony. So I would go with Jason Becker would have been one for me. Then Joe Satriani would have been number two. Surfing with the Alien is a great, great instrumental metal guitar album. Then probably, this is tough, really, it's just a throw up. I'm not a fan of Dimebag. I'd probably put him third, but that's really because I just don't like Pantera. Steve Vai, I've never been a huge fan of Steve Vai. He's an amazing technician, but yeah, I just never cared for his playing. And then who did I miss? Paul Gilbert, probably. But so that was a tough one. But for me, for this one, I probably would have picked Jason Becker. All right, there you go. Again, it's hard to judge these things. You're going by who's your favorite, not who you like the best, not who you think is the greatest guitar player. If I went down some of these lists, like for instance Eddie Van Halen, if I was going by who I think is, technically the best, I would have said Eddie Van Halen. His influence is bigger than Randy Rhoads, or I would have said, Gary Moore is a much better technician than Michael Schenker is. It would have changed some of the things on the list. But this was a list about who you like best, who your favorite is. So they were the ones that I like best. Again, not a competition or anything. Everybody likes who they like, and a lot of it depends on you know, how their music affected you when you discovered some of these players. So, all right, it was fun to do. Thanks everybody for voting, and keep your eyes open for when the next poll comes up. If you want to leave some suggestions for future polls, let me know down below. And until we see you again, make sure you stay heavy, stay metal.